it down now. Break it down now.
Hey folks, this is Chris again from Make Ready, and here we're going to talk about how to reset your trigger more efficiently than what probably most people are doing. One of the things we see a lot in our classes is the amount of time that it takes for people to reset their trigger. If you're a shooter, other than a marksmanship bullseye shooter, where time doesn't matter, then you need to shave time between shots. What I mean by that is, if you have all the time in the world, who cares about your split times? Who cares about how quickly you need to follow the second shot? And why this is important? Because every 1/10 of a second in a practical scenario or practical sense of defense of yourself or someone else can be the difference between life and death. So in today's video, we will be discussing how to reset your trigger in an efficient manner. Learning this skill will give you two advantages. One, it will help you master the skill of resetting the trigger before you take a class. So when you take the class, then you can you already have it mastered, and then you can focus on other skills that are being presented to you, and thus increasing your retention. Number two, you can minimize the training time needed to master a skill, because if that's already mastered, it's not going to impose on another skill that you're trying to train at the same time. Both of these points will save you time and money in the long run. So let's define what resetting the trigger is. What does it mean when we say resetting the trigger? It's a simple concept, but it's harder to master than it appears. Resetting the trigger is to return the trigger after firing a round to a point in its travel which will allow the gun to fire again. So I'm going to demonstrate this several times. So how this works, this gun is cleared. How this works is the trigger finger will apply pressure along the path of the trigger until the gun fires. The gun will cycle. The trigger finger then will need to allow the trigger to travel back along the path it has already traveled until the sear of the trigger group is reset. An audible click, that click will sound when this occurs. So once again, you press the trigger until the gun goes bang, the gun will cycle, and then this is the resetting portion, as you start to go back that distance that the trigger traveled, you will hear a click. That is an indication that the gun is now ready to shoot, and now you can discharge another shot. So once again, cycling, that sear reset is that first click, and then if I was to press again, that would be the second click. Let's discuss a concept that I see often, and that is pinning the trigger to the rear. And this is what a lot of people do, and they don't really reset the trigger like I just described. And if they do it in this manner of pinning it to the rear. This is a concept that is used in training and has its purposes, but a lot of people continually use this skill throughout their entire shooting process, and they don't change it. So let's talk about it and what it actually is doing. They will press the trigger to the rear, the gun will cycle, they will hold it here until they acquire their sights and they're ready to shoot again, and then from this position they will come off the trigger and then press it again. The problem is when you pin the trigger to the rear while shooting at speed and under stress, this will cause an input or a pause rather, in the trigger manipulation or the shooting process. And this pause, as I showed you a second ago, while they're realigning their sights and they're getting ready to shoot, can be anywhere from 1/10 of a second or sometimes even 3/10 of a second or more. So if you're in a self-defense scenario or practical shooting or competition even, and you're trying to do multiple shots, you can see how this would be problematic. And statistically speaking, in a defensive scenario, people need several rounds, most likely between 3 to 5 or more, to stop a threat. So if you added up all this extra time, you could be looking at a 1/2 second or on the low end, or up to 1.5 seconds or greater on the high end. So just food for thought, a poor shooter can deliver a shot, one shot every second. So if your adversary is a poor shooter, one shot every second. An average shooter, with a little bit of trigger time, can usually do about 2 shots per second, and an excellent shooter can deliver anywhere from 4 or more shots per second. So why this is important? It's more time that you're giving your opponent to be able to deliver a shot in return. So what does this look like when we don't pin it to the rear, but rather we do it in an efficient manner? So ideally, you should be resetting the trigger while the slide is cycling. And what that looks like is as this, I've just fired the shot, as this slide cycles, you will see that I will reset the trigger. And I'm now at the exact point where I could fire another shot. I'm not waiting and pinning it to the rear, allowing everything to happen with the gun. I'm already ready. And you know this because if I had done it late and I would try to press the trigger, which I'm about to do, you would hear the sear click and then the trigger press. So this is only going to be one click, and that's that. So if I did it late, you're going to hear the sear, which was that, and then the click. If I did it on time, I'm going to be directly in front of all that motion, and I've already reset it, the trigger, while the slide was moving, and I can test this and know by when I press, I only get one click. So how do we train this? How we train this skill, we will do this in 3 parts. First, we're going to crawl, then we're going to walk, and then we're going to run with it. So before we start this training or the example, or if you were to do this in your training portions in 3 parts, you have to do a couple things. We always want to make sure the gun is completely unloaded and make sure there's no magazine or ammo located in the room that you're training or in the area vicinity where you're training. Also, you need to be adamant about following all the 4 universal firearm safety rules at all times, and that's paramount. So let's crawl. We'll take our pistol and we are going to hold it directly in front of us so we can use all our senses to learn. We're going to visually look at it. We are going to feel the trigger move kinesthetically, and we are going to hear audibly the clicks. So with the gun placed near your body, you're going to point it in a safe direction, and we will press the trigger and pin it to the rear. I'm cycling it because I'm trying to get the reset, so you would do the same. Now we've cycled the slide, still keeping the trigger pinned to the rear. We will allow the trigger to move. Now, you would be looking down and watching visually. I'm focusing on the camera, but you would be looking down and watching and measuring the movement of the trigger forward until you hit an audible click. And now you're going to be physically able to feel the click. You can see the click. And then you can hear the click. So you should repeat this a minimum of 10 times. The more the merrier. And idea here is to focus in on what it feels like, what it looks like, and what it sounds like. Each time, what it feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And you're going to do this many, many times. Like I said, at least 10 to 20 times. Once that feels comfortable and you have some confidence in, like, you're kind of getting used to that process and how it feels, what it looks like, and what it sounds like, now we're going to walk. Now we remove the vision aspect and we're going to look forward, and now we're only going to feel and hear, and we're going to do the exact same process. Fire it, and now, but here's the key. I want to try to anticipate when I think in my mind, when I feel like it's going to click, that sear is going to click, and I want to pause. So now, I'm going to let that go. Okay, that's where it is. I'm going to pause. Focus on what this feels like, what it sounds like. Cycle in until I'm going to do this reps 10, 20 times until I feel comfortable and I can almost anticipate the moment that sear resets and I can get that click, because this is going to be important on the next step. So again, I want to do this about 10 to 20 times. And I should focus on the anticipation. Just to reiterate, I should focus on the anticipation when the sear will reset and how the process feels. Each part of this process should be deliberate and with 100% focus. Now let's run. We will move the gun so it is in front of us and pointed in an upward direction. We will start with pinning the trigger to the rear, and the goal is to manipulate the slide in one motion while resetting the trigger at the same time. What this looks like is as I cycle this, I'm going to come to that spot. That was a little late. Let's try it again. So how I know that this is done correctly is I should only get one click and not a sear and then a click. So there's one. So if I did it late, you hear that click, And the second click, I was late. So what I want to hear is no see a reset click, but because I know it was done in this being disguised by the sound of the slide moving, and I should only get one click. For some people, this process is easy. Others, it takes more time. So if you are able to get this process down within 4 or 5 attempts, great. If not, you need to try timing the slingshot of the slide with the movement of the finger by counting out loud at the end of like 1, 2, 3, and then both actions happen at the same time. So if I'm having trouble, one of the ways to do this is pin the trigger to the rear, and then I will count 1, 2, 3, and then do both actions, cycling the slide and then manipulating my finger at the same time together to try to get that reset of the trigger. So that's how I would do it if you're having trouble with the process. So in review, developing the skill of resetting the trigger while a slide is moving will save you time and allow you to strive for the gold standard of shooting. You will also find, after developing a skill, it will allow you to feel more relaxed, more confident when you're shooting, as you won't feel like you're in a hurry to reset the trigger and to deliver a shot. And when you're more relaxed and confident, you'll always shoot better. So if you benefit from this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you want to see a different topic covered, throw it in the comments. Otherwise, until next time, I'm Chris from Make Ready. Don't forget, be well, be safe, and keep training.
Break it down now. Break it down now.